We have completed our first mock draft after the NFL draft. It was a lot of fun. We'll tell you where the rookies went. Ashton Jeanty, first round pick, no doubt about that. He was RB5 off the board, and I think he was the 9th overall pick. He was to a very, very handsome drafter. Welcome to the show. This is Fantasy Football Today. It is Wednesday, April 30th. Dave, I don't think he really agreed with the last statement I made there. He kind of like shrugged, like, nah, not so handsome. Anyway, we welcome you, and we will go through the draft. 12 teams, full PPR, 3-receiver league. Jamie and Heath are here as well. Let's get one big, fun, fantasy-relevant takeaway from the mock draft. Jamie.
I picked 12th, and I actually liked picking at the back end of round one. I think it's going to be a good spot to be in with now a much more, I think, robust first round.
And you took Nico Collins and Christian McCaffrey. So obviously you're confident in the progress that McCaffrey is making.
I am. I also could have taken Nico Collins and Brian Thomas Jr., which I would have also been happy with. And, just seeing the way that the end of the first round fell, we'll talk about it, but Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, if those are going to be 3 choices, 10, 11, and 12, I'm going to be very happy picking in those spots.
Heath, give me one big, fun fantasy takeaway.
I need to move the wide receivers up in my rankings so that I can draft some of them in the first 3 rounds.
What do you mean by that?
I think I started this draft running back, tight end, running back. And I really didn't like the wide receivers very much in round 3 and round 4 after I'd started running back and tight end. So it may be more important for me to get a really good wide receiver in round 1.
That was going to be basically my takeaway as well. But my takeaway is that Heath is very tan. You look tan.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
I don't know if I look tan, but
no, Dave.
You know what's nice is that Heath having issue with his cameras, and you're pointing out, so when he says he doesn't want people to be looking at him today, and you put the focus right on him.
Yeah.
I think it's a compliment. You look very, very tan.
I haven't had time to shave for a few days. I got the beard going on, so maybe that's what it is.
I don't think he looks any tan or less. And did you say you took 3 running backs with your first 4 picks, Heath?
Yes.
Who would do that?
You.
Oh yeah, that would be me. I kind of want to play off of what Heath said about ranking wide receivers higher. The fact that running backs went deep last year and we had great success with them, combined with the draft that we just had, it is a really plentiful position, and you should be willing to optimize your draft strategies based on the depth that's there at running back. And I can't say it's there at wide receiver in the same way. I think there is a massive tier break at wide receiver. It might even be before you get to wide receiver 12 or 13 in the rankings. It's going to be really tough. I think prioritizing those wide receivers, it could be a way to go, and you'll still feel really good about the running backs you get later on. That is the conclusion I came to after I took running backs with each of my first 3 picks in this mock draft. I couldn't resist. I love the value, but when your wide receiver 1 is Devontae Adams, I don't know if that's necessarily optimal, but it's a mock, and we're just feeling things out.
And Dave had the 6th pick. He took Jahmyr Gibbs in round 1. He took Kyron Williams in round 2, and he took Chase Brown in round 3. And based on what Chase Brown did last year after Zach Moss's injury, I said it on Saturday after day 3 of the draft, he should be a first-round pick. I don't know if we expect the same, but mid-round 3 for Chase Brown. And Dave was like, screw it, basically, when he made the pick, because he didn't want to take 3 running backs, but he had to. And that's exactly what I was thinking, guys. Like, man, does running back feel better than wide receiver this year? We've been, we could have egg on our face by the middle of the season when the wide receiver, you just never know how it's going to play out. But looking back, my takeaway is, why did I draft Ashton Jeanty over Puka Nacua and Nico Collins, who are wide receivers 3 and 4 for me in my rankings? And I don't know. I got seduced, I guess. It's a mock draft. I wanted to see what the team would look like. I also thought, I had a chance to get Neighbors, Nacua, Collins, or Brian Thomas Jr. in round 2. It didn't happen. They all went before my next pick. But I thought I had a chance to get an elite wide receiver there. I got AJ Brown, who I think could be elite. But yeah, if I could do it again, I think I would take Nico Collins or Puka Nacua over Ashton Genty because getting an elite wide receiver feels pretty important this year. All right. So that's going to be a theme that I think is going to be talked about for months now leading into draft season is the strength of the running back position. And you see it throughout the draft. And I think you see it even more now because in rounds 4, 5, 6, starting in the late round 4, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson, RJ, not in this order. So in the order, it was Omarion Hampton, then RJ Harvey, Travion Henderson, and then Caleb Johnson, and then Quinshon Judkins in a span of 26 picks or something like that. So wouldn't you say the running back position's even stronger now than it was last week, a week ago today, Wednesday?
Yes, but that's kind of what our expectation was coming out of the draft, right? Or going into the draft, excuse me, that we thought that, this class was going to populate several teams and, change the landscape of the position. And it has. You're looking at Denver with a very, intriguing option. Obviously, the Raiders clearly, getting an upgrade. The Chargers revamping their entire backfield. So, there's a lot to like about New England. Same thing. There's a lot to like about what these guys, bring. And then I think in some of these situations, Cleveland included, like you're looking at, the tandem and the second guy, which in some cases, the second guy may still be the first guy for what the teams are looking at, like the Patriots, for example, is still a pretty decent, at least flex option, so depending on how you build your team, I think it'll be interesting to contrast Dave's start to his team and Joel Cox's start to his team, who started 3 wide receivers with his first 3 picks, at pick number 11 to see how those 2 teams ended up.
Oh, we will do that. And if you want to see the draft board, please go to youtube.com/fantasyfootball today, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today, and watch the show because the draft board is displayed throughout. Also, there will be an article on the website likely today, Wednesday, with the results as well. So that's cbsports.com/fantasy. We do have some news and notes to get to. I want to do that. I want to read some emails that I forgot to read. We'll go through some emails very quickly. First, there's a question in the chat. Heath, where can we get your dynasty rankings? Tell the people how to get your dynasty rankings.
Well, you can just look one answer down in the chat, and Thomas has put a link to the dynasty rankings. There's a top 50 with tiers for super flex leagues and an explanation of where I would take those guys if you're in a 1 quarterback league or a tight end premium league. It's much easier to give the super flex rankings and then say, don't take any quarterback until after round 3 besides Cam Ward if you're in 1 quarterback leagues, because this is not a 1 quarterback league kind of draft for the quarterbacks. But yeah, all of those are there. You've also, in the last couple of days, I've updated not just the rookies, but quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, top 50 to 100 of each of those positions.
Who's your QB2 in a rookie-only dynasty draft?
Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
I think
I'm very tempted to go with Milroe.
Yes.
If you're in a 1 quarterback league and neither one of those guys are going in the top 36 picks, like I don't think they should, then yeah, I'd agree with you. But in a super flex league, which is really probably the only league where they're going to matter in, I would go with Dart first because I think it's much more likely he gets to start.
Okay. And that did rhyme as well. Also, Heath has been working very hard in his dynasty rankings on the beach, where he's getting that awesome tan. And if you just Google Heath Cummings dynasty rankings, you will find them. The first link. Very easy.
I was hoping you were going to have them Google Heath Cummings beach.
Oh, I wonder what would come up there.
Don't do that. I have no idea.
Okay. All right. News and notes. George Kittle signed a 4-year, $76.4 million extension with $40 million guaranteed. George Kittle was the number 1 tight end per game in full PPR. He averaged 15.8 PPR fantasy points per game. Bowers and McBride were close behind. But so let's see. Bowers and McBride are round 2 picks, basically every draft we do. Kittle I took with the 4th pick of round 4. What's better value, guys? McBride and Bowers in round 2 or George Kittle in round 4?
Kittle in round 4.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's really close. Like I think Bowers, I'd rather have Bowers in round 2 than Kittle in round 4, but Kittle in round 4 than McBride in round 2.
Okay. A couple of players got the unrestricted free agent tender. So this means that they have until July 22nd to sign with new teams. If they don't, the teams that put the tender on them have their exclusive negotiating rights. And this would be Elijah Moore with Cleveland, and more relevant for us, J.K. Dobbins with the Chargers. So, Dave, what does this mean for J.K. Dobbins and the Chargers backfield right now?
First of all, you almost never hear about this. It's very rare. I think it's relatively new, and it means that they have exclusive rights on a player, and it's at a pretty decent cost. Like from what I read, it's like over $3 million that the Chargers would give Dobbins if they chose to hang on to him.
I don't think so.
You don't?
I think it's like a 10% raise or something from what he made last year, which wasn't much. I'll try to double check.
Did they
invent
this rule?
I don't. Go ahead.
What?
Sorry.
Did they just invent this rule? Like, I don't remember ever hearing about it before.
It's new.
It's definitely newer. I wouldn't worry about
you're
it.
right. You're right. I'm very sorry. You're 100% right. $3.4 million. Oh, no. For Dobbins, it's 1.1 million. For Moore, it's 3.4 million for Elijah Moore.
Okay.
So it's 110% of the player's previous year's salary. This is on ESPN. All right. Apologize for interrupting you. Please continue. So, yeah, what does this mean?
I don't think we should really even bother talking about it until it happens.
Well, no, is there a pretty realistic chance that Dobbins is back on the Chargers now?
I think if I understand the rule correctly, it's really they're trying to get compensatory picks still for these guys, which is why they're doing it. So I would assume two things. One, the team would probably welcome back J.K. Dobbins at that price. I mean, that's great value for a player of his caliber. It would make our situation miserable. I mean, can you imagine if Hampton, Harris, and Dobbins were sharing touches? God, that would be terrible. But they're probably pretty confident that he's going to sign somewhere. So the fact that these two teams did it, I think Moore already took a visit somewhere, if I'm not mistaken.
Buffalo.
Where?
Buffalo.
So they're probably confident he's going to sign somewhere, and I would assume that the Chargers think that Dobbins is going to have some, interest from some teams. While we're talking about this, I did see I think it was a Chicago radio station reporting that Nick Chubb may be headed to the Bears. So that's something to keep an eye on. And I took DeAndre Swift in this draft, and did it with the understanding that that's something that could still be coming. I also drafted Dobbins with the hope that if that's the case, then it's Dobbins to Chicago, which I would much rather see because I think Dobbins is in a better spot this year than Nick Chubb.
Dave pointing out there's an NBC Sports article that says Dobbins would make $3.4 million. So,
there's another report saying that it's 2.13 million. So to Heath's point, this is all weird territory that we don't talk about very often. Hopefully these guys sign somewhere before late July.
Yes, hope so. Okay, let's see what else we got in the news items here. We got, and I just want to say one last thing. Elijah Moore actually played a pretty significant role on the Browns last year. So I'm not saying that he's necessarily fantasy relevant, but he could muck it up a little bit for the other guys.
I do think
what's that?
We probably undersold and would maybe do the same. Josh Palmer's, addition to Buffalo because they did nothing in the draft clearly, and he's going to have some weeks where he matters. And if Elijah Moore goes to Buffalo, he's going to have some weeks where he matters. So these are good late round picks, depending on how it shakes out, and would probably impact especially more Khalil Shakir.
And what about Deontay Johnson going to Cleveland? Heath?
I am the wrong person to ask about Deontay Johnson going to Cleveland because even back when he was earning 10 targets a game, I was complaining about how he never did anything with them. I think it's good on Cleveland because the place where their roster's at right now, take a shot on a guy who used to be an elite target earner and see if he can come in and you can find something with him. But like he's the last 2 seasons, he's played 25 games and he has about 1,000 yards receiving, and it didn't work out with Baltimore. Houston didn't want him back. Didn't really work out very well with Carolina. I am not really factoring Deontay Johnson in much.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll finish up the news.
Do you think the Bengals will sign him so he just gets the entire AFC North?
I think that'd be perfect.
Okay. All right, we'll be right back and we'll finish up the news and notes and get to the draft. Okay, we're back. So Patriots GM Elliott Wolf said that Travion Henderson, rookie running back they took in the second round, that he is a three down back, not a third down back. Big difference. He's a 3-down back, but also a really good complement. He said like complement to Ramondre Stevenson, I'm thinking. But the fact that you call him a 3-down back is very encouraging. Aaron Rodgers has no timetable to make a decision, according to ESPN's Peter Schrager. The Cowboys could be interested in bringing back Amari Cooper, according to the Star Telegram. Baltimore GM Eric DeCosta expects Mark Andrews to be on the team. Daniel Popper of The Athletic thinks Quentin Johnston will have to earn his roster spot. Carolina wide receiver Hunter Renfrow said he took 2024 off because he had ulcerative colitis.
Ooh.
So I'm glad he has recovered.
Yeah.
And good.
Google that.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough for him. Lost a lot of weight. It was physically tough for him. Cam Ward, we got the automatic quote. He has to earn the starting job. He has to compete for the starting job. We expect him to win it. And who do you guys think are the top 3 rookie jerseys in terms of jersey sales? Which 3 rookies have the most jersey sales so far?
Travis Hunter by a mile.
Hunter, Genty.
Genty. Carter?
No way, it's Carter.
No, you guys are wrong on 2 of those.
So I'll tell you, I think that.
Oh no, you're wrong on one of them. Sorry. So it is Hunter. Yeah, you guys are wrong. Go ahead, keep going.
Oh, Shadur Sanders.
He's 3.
Yeah.
Is he?
Wow.
Great pick by Cleveland.
Might not even have him on the roster.
Jalen Royals.
No, it's Cam Ward.
Get out of here.
No, I think a lot of people want to have a Chiefs jersey that says Royals on the back.
I would have thought Tesla.
Tesla, yeah. Cam Ward is number 2. So it's Hunter, Ward. Yeah, right. Was somebody, Kyle Brandt from NFL Network had it was really great 2 to 3 minute monologue about how Cam Ward is basically the least talked about number 1 pick. And like nobody ever talks about Cam Ward, so he just gave him his due, and it was pretty good. I think it was important because no one talks about him. It's like a boring number 1 pick as a shooter. All right, man, we got to get to the draft. Let's do it. Mock draft review. Ashton Jensen.
Raiders jerseys usually so fast.
He's 4th. He's 4th. And he's 9th in the draft. So he's 4th in jersey sales. He's 9th in the draft. He's RB5. He goes after Barkley, Bijan, Gibbs, Achane, and then it's Genty. That's just in the running back rankings. I'll go through round 1 in a second. Devon Achane, by the way, who Heath took 1 spot before I took Genty, averaged 22.6 PPR fantasy points per game with Tua Tagovailoa last year. I believe that would have been good enough to be RB1 per game.
I agonized over that decision and almost just changed my rankings and moved Genty ahead of Achane. So like those 2 were a coin flip. I'd been happy to move back and get a better pick later.
But did you have the same agony that I had of Genty versus Puka, Genty versus Nico, or whichever wide receiver?
No, I didn't have the foresight to see the wide receiver catastrophe that was coming at that point. I was only considering the 2 running backs.
Okay. All right, so let's go through round 1. So it's Chase. Remember, this is 12 teams, full PPR, 3 receivers. Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Justin Jefferson, Jahmyr Gibbs to Dave, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devon Achane to Heath, Ashton Genty to me, Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, and then Nico Collins to Jamie. So it is 5 running backs and 7 wide receivers in this round. Dave, your thoughts?
Sounds about right. I think we'll be seeing an even amount of running backs and wide receivers in the first 2 rounds. It played out that way in this draft. There were 11 running backs in the first 2 rounds, 11 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds, 2 tight ends. And I know that there's going to be a crunch at receiver sooner than there will be at running back. But I can't ignore the potential of a lot of these running backs that went in round 1 and the potential for what did you say it was for Achane with Tua? 22.6, and that would have been an amazing number. For example, Saquon on the year had 22.2. Bijan from week 6 on had 22.8. I don't know if I want to give that up to take a wide receiver that could still get around 20. And we just saw like the best year ever from Jamar Chase. He averaged 23.7. Can he do that again? I don't know if he can. I think he can come pretty close. That's why he went at the top of the draft. But a lot of these other receivers, they're going to be in the 18 point per game range in PPR. Feels safer to take them. But the allure of these running backs, especially the younger ones, it's going to be tough for fantasy managers to totally pass up.
Okay. Do you think that because fantasy football is so unpredictable that when we make our first round picks, we shouldn't necessarily think about the rest of the draft, that we should just take the best player available? I mean, I feel like
I think you should do that with every pick.
Right. But there is the balance of, man, I can get a much better wide receiver in round 2 than running back, or round 3 or whatever. Or is it just, I don't know. What, you know what I'm saying? But best player available, or try to plan it out a little bit?
Well, I think, obviously I read a lot of these mock drafts, and, we're not doing our magazine anymore, but I would always kind of make this point in the magazine that, we get the benefit of doing a lot of mock drafts, and we have a great mock draft product. And so our audience is fantastic. They're very well versed in the subject, and clearly they pay attention throughout the year. But that's why you practice this, right? You play out these theories and these strategies and see how it works best for you. And so you can clearly take best player available approach. It sounds like that's what Dave did with his first 3 picks. And, if you like what happened in rounds 4, 5, and 6 with his receivers, you're going to be pretty happy with how those first 3 picks took out. Dan talks about this all the time. Like, we look at it and say, oh, it's a 3 receiver league, I got to get 3 good receivers. Well, your flex is just as important as your receivers. There's still starters in your lineup. And obviously, you want to have some balance, and you want to obviously have a good, solid receiving core. But to start your team with Gibbs, Kyren, and Chase Brown, like, that's amazing to say those are 3 starters. Mm-hmm. And so, the difference is there's more volatility at the running back position when it comes to injuries and whatnot based on the history of the game. So, you're playing a little bit of a riskier, situation there. But I think just in terms of, you want to always get players that are going to be difference makers. And so if you have that opportunity, it's hard to pass those guys up. Now, again, you want to have depth at certain spots. You can, look at that. Like, I'm looking at my start, not to jump ahead, but to go Nico Collins, Christian McCaffrey. Like, I could have gone Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr., and I probably still would have gone the same 2 receivers and gone 4 receivers to start, because, again, those are 4 starters for me. So if I would have gone Nico Collins, Brian Thomas, Rashee Rice, and Garrett Wilson, like, okay, my running backs are probably going to stink, but good luck beating me at the 3 receiver spots in my flex potentially if everybody hits the way they're capable of.
All right. Yeah, Jamie took Nico Collins, Christian McCaffrey, Rashee Rice, Garrett Wilson with his first 4 picks. So I'll just repeat round 1, then we'll go to round 2. Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Barkley, Bijan, Justin Jefferson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devon Achane, Ashton Genty, Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins. I will say that I don't think I can justify Neighbors over Puka or Nico. How about you guys?
I like Neighbors over Puka.
I do too.
Really?
I have Puka over Neighbors, but the 3 of them are very, very close. And so I don't have a strong feeling.
Okay. I'll have to get into that at some other time. Christian McCaffrey is the first pick of round 2. Brian Thomas Jr., Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Brock Bowers, Bucky Irving. That's the first half of round 2. I'll go 6 picks at a time. McCaffrey, Brian Thomas Jr., Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Brock Bowers, Bucky Irving. Dave, we got into a nice little debate, and it's actually going to come up again if I can get to the emails of the Rashee Rice versus Brian Thomas Jr., but you expressed some concerns about Brian Thomas Jr. with Travis Hunter there now. How are you feeling now that you've had time to digest it a little bit and do your rankings?
Well, we don't know how Rashee Rice is feeling, and I qualified it at the time saying that if Rashee Rice is right and there's no suspension looming, there's nothing in his way, he's got a clear path to playing and being healthy in week 1, that he could be as good, if not better, than Brian Thomas Jr. I wrote it in pencil, and I think Brian Thomas Jr. does have more upside than Rashee Rice, but I still think it's close. And I can't rule out that if Travis Hunter just has an absolute monster training camp and it's clear that he's going to be a receiver first and a cornerback second. I mean, the investment that the Jaguars made in him and the way they're talking about him in the days after the draft, they can't let him be 6 targets per game and call him the face of the franchise. And you just, the obvious look of a team and the way that targets play out, yeah, you've got to think that Brian Thomas Jr. is going to lose something. and that he's not going to be the monster that he was to end last season. And then there's also the thought about how Trevor Lawrence played last season, and he wasn't very good. His accuracy downfield was league average at best. And I wonder if Travis Hunter is there to help him out in the short and intermediate range. And so I think there's going to be definitely concentrated targets between those two guys. They're going to get a lot, but there's going to be some games where Brian Thomas Jr. is okay and Travis Hunter is great. Just like there's going to be some games where Travis Hunter is okay and Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be great. I don't think BTJ is a first round pick. I do think he should be taken out of Rashee Rice.
I've got, and there's a lot of guesswork here, but I've got Thomas at 140 targets, Hunter at 112.
If he got 140 targets, would you take Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round?
No.
But close to it. I don't really have that big of a problem with where Joel took BTJ.
Okay.
So what is that? 14th overall? Yeah.
14.
That's fine.
All right. So it's McCaffrey, Brian Thomas Jr., Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, Brock Bowers, Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams, Josh Jacobs, Trey McBride. And again, you're going to see the 2 tight ends come off the board in the second round in our drafts basically every time. It gets a little interesting, though, late in the second round. There are a lot of options to choose from here. You can go with the young guys that we're hoping to break out. You could maybe think about like Breece Hall and Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't be surprised if Chase Brown ends up in this range at some point. But the last 3 picks of round 2, after Kyron Williams, Jacobs, and Trey McBride, we have Jonathan Taylor, Drake London, Ladd McConkey. Any strong thoughts? We can move on. Want to focus on the rookies? That's fine.
That's where they belong.
Okay. So we'll go to round 3. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Breece Hall. Anybody like that pick? Breece Hall, second pick of round 3?
No.
Too early?
Yes, especially with Chase Brown still on the board.
Thank you.
And James Cook. And Joe Mixon. You guys like Mixon or Breece Hall at this point?
Mixon.
Damn, this is good running backs in round 3. All right, so JSN, Breece Hall, T. Higgins, Lamar Jackson, our first quarterback off the board. Tyreek Hill. You guys taking Tyreek Hill or T. Higgins?
T. Higgins, but they're close.
T. Higgins by a lot.
T. Higgins by several spots. I'm putting a tax on Dolphins players not named Achan.
Chase Brown to Dave is third of 3 running backs. Josh Allen, Joe Mixon to Heath. I was like sitting there, I was like, oh, Mixon or Cook, Mixon or Cook, Mixon or Cook. Heath, thank you for making the decision for me. You took Mixon. I took James Cook. And then we get Travis Hunter going 34th overall and followed by Terry McLaurin and Rashee Rice. So
the Hazer prophecy.
Yeah, yes. And I don't see why Jacksonville can't have 2 top 15 wide receivers. Can somebody count for me what receiver he was? But I just think they really don't have anyone else to take targets, right? These guys could completely dominate targets.
15.
Oh, how about that?
15th receiver off the board.
I don't know if I would have taken him here, but I was just saying that I think there will be enough buzz where he will start going there. All right, anyway.
So right now his underdog ADP is 50.
That's
okay.
best ball.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Travis Hunter we're talking about. He went 34th in this draft. So I'm going to name the wide receiver. I'm going to name all the players that went after him. And you tell me if you would take Travis Hunter or Terry McLaurin.
McLaurin.
Yep.
Rashee Rice.
Rice.
Definitely Ray Rice. Or Rashee Rice. Why did I say Ray Rice?
Garrett Wilson.
I'll take Hunter over Wilson.
It's getting... it's still Garrett Wilson.
Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba.
Yep.
Alvin Kamara.
Yes, Alvin.
George Kittle.
Yep.
I'm just not going to say anything until I find somebody that I like.
Okay, yeah, that's a better idea. When I say a name where you would take Travis Hunter over this player, then you say Travis Hunter. Ken Walker. Marvin Harrison Jr. Devontae Adams. Mike Evans. Xavier Worthy. Jaden Daniels.
I'll take Hunter over Worthy.
Jaden Daniels. Omarion Hampton.
I'll take Hunter over Hampton.
All right. We can stop now. So Travis Hunter goes with the 10th pick of round 3, and there you just heard the analysis. Let's move on to round 4. It's Garrett Wilson, Chuba Hubbard, Alvin Kamara, George Kittle, Ken Walker. And I'm just going to stop there. Look at the draft board after that. So Garrett Wilson, Chuba Hubbard, Alvin Kamara, George Kittle, Ken Walker. Do things start to get a little... When is there... Because the next pick is Marvin Harrison Jr., then Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Xavier Worthy. Are we starting to get kind of risky here with these picks? Not that they're bad picks, but is everything a little kind of questionable at this point?
Not yet.
No?
We're getting there.
Listen, I had 2 running backs and a tight end at that point. So obviously taking a third running back was not my favorite thing to do, but I did see a pretty big gap between Walker and the wide receivers that were left.
Okay, you took Ken Walker. I took George Kittle because I didn't love any of the wide receivers there. I had 2 running backs at that. I had the same situation as you, right? I had 2 running backs in my first 3 picks. I had A.J. Brown. You had Brock Bowers. That was the difference. I just didn't love the wide receivers, so I took Kittle. And then you took Ken Walker. And
there were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What? 11 wide receivers taken before you picked again?
Yeah, right. And then I took another running back because I missed out on this big run. All right, anyway, we'll get to that. All right, so we have Marvin Harrison Jr., Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. Why is Mike Evans going this late? Did you guys agree with that? And then Chris Godwin went around later.
They just drafted another wide receiver, and he's 32.
And he wasn't worth better than this when Chris Godwin was healthy last year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I didn't mean it to sound like I was disagreeing.
No, this is a good spot for him.
But also, you just see, if you're me and you're worried about Chris Godwin coming back from this injury, you see the chance for Evans to be a top 12 receiver again. So good value here for Dan, who drafted Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans in back-to-back rounds. Is that a little too risky for you guys?
Not for me, no.
I don't want to take Hill that early, but I feel like the Egbuka pick may cap Evans' upside if Godwin misses time early. It's not going to be just Mike Evans and McMillan. It's going to be Mike Evans, McMillan, and a first-round wide receiver who a lot of people thought was one of the most polished first-round wide receivers coming in.
Mm-hmm. All right. After Mike Evans, we have Xavier Worthy, who goes about 8-9 picks after Rashee Rice. Jaden Daniels is QB3. Omari and Hampton. Here we go. So now we're going to get a little run on rookie running backs. We had Genty going 9th overall. We have Hampton going 47th overall. The next 3 picks are Hampton, James Conner, David Montgomery. That's the end of round 4 and the very beginning of round 5. And how do you guys feel about that trio there, Jamie? Hampton, Conner, Montgomery.
I think it's going to come down to, how you feel about the veteran guys. Obviously, Connor's coming off an amazing season, and if he stays healthy, has a chance to be, solid again. He's going to be 30. They really didn't do anything to change their backfield. So if Trey Benson's as non-existent as he was last year, then Connor's in a good spot. But again, year older, escaped really the injury bug, which is the first time he's done that in a long time, at least missing, the 3 games that he typically isn't there. So round 4, given RJ's build of 3 receivers with his first 3 picks, solid turn there with Conner and Montgomery. I actually prefer RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson to those guys, but again, if you want a little bit more of a safe, secure route, maybe a higher floor, Conner and Montgomery are fine. So yeah, Hampton should kick off the next run of rookie running backs after Genty. But I like the other 2 young running backs in terms of Harvey and Henderson better than Conner and Montgomery right now.
And how about just to skip ahead to the last pick of round 6 as we stay on RJ's team. So RJ had the first pick of the draft. He goes Jamar Chase, Ladd McConkey, Jackson Smith and Jigba, James Conner, David Montgomery, Quinshon Judkins. Do you think Judkins should have been 2 rounds after Omari and Hampton and more than a full round after RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson?
I mean, I could only speak for myself with what I did. So I started with one running back in my first 5 picks. First 4 picks, and then I had the 5-6 turn. Joe Burrow was still on the board, so that was too hard to pass up. So at that point, I had to make the decision of Joe Burrow. If I was going to take Joe Burrow, was I going to pass on taking 2 running backs, or which was my initial plan? And Judkins was in the conversation for me that I was having with myself apparently. But the conversation to take 2 running backs there. So Swift, Judkins, Pollard, and I believe Pacheco were the ones that I was considering.
When did Pacheco go?
Round 7.
Round 7. Oh yeah, there he is. That's wow. I think that might be my favorite pick now that I just discovered it.
I'm terrified.
Why? Come on, let's.
Not around 7. You can't be terrified.
No, I just don't. I'm terrified of taking him any earlier.
Why?
Because I think the Chiefs probably are just going to go with a committee at running back, and I think there's a real possibility Brashard Smith is in that like Jerick McKinnon type role, the way they're talking about him, or Kareem Hunt is. And we're still counting on Mitchell being something, or Pacheco being something he wasn't the last time we saw him.
He was injured. He's fine. He's great.
Hopefully.
Don't worry
You're
about
hoping so if you're taking him.
Round 7. All right, let's go to, so where are we at? We're at the end of round 4, on to round 5, and we're also at time for a commercial break. Thomas, go to break. Go, 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 go.
The crowd loves champions. Gladiator 2 is an epic spectacle. To amuse you is my only wish.
The glory is yours, not mine.
Very good. Gladiator 2, rated R, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
For those of you who didn't see on YouTube, we just had a Gladiator 2 promo. Did you guys see it?
Yeah.
I was pretty into it. I watched about 45 minutes. It seemed very good. Very exciting.
I watched the whole thing. I liked it so much.
It's great. Thomas ruined it for me though when he saw it and then told me about the one scene that just killed it for me. But otherwise, I loved it.
Okay, good. On to round 5. We'll focus on the rookies here. Montgomery, Zay Flowers, DJ Moore. Zay Flowers too early there. What do you think?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
DJ Moore, Jamison Williams, Cortland Sutton. Why should he be going? He went to the team with Mike Evans. Should Cortland Sutton be going before Mike Evans?
I would do it. Yeah, right now.
I would.
Not me. I think they're relatively close, but I would rather bank on Mike Evans getting to around 15 PPR points per game because he's done it and we've seen it for years. Whereas Sutton just had a monster year, was one of his best ones. Now what's going to happen when Denver's run game potentially gets better? They added a rookie in Pat Bryant that I think can come in and play. Peyton was comparing him to Marcus Colston. That ain't good for Cortland Sutton. I think he'll be good, but I don't want to overdraft Sutton.
Okay. So then the next pick is Chris Godwin to Dave. So Dave went 3 running backs, 3 receivers. Gibbs, Kyron. Yeah, exactly. Gibbs, Kyron, Chase Brown, Devontae, Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf, and then he took David Njoku. And then he took 2 more receivers, but Devontae, Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf. How do you feel about rolling out those 3 players?
I think I got a little lucky to get those guys, to be honest with you. And if you had told me before the draft that these would be my top 3 receivers after I got 3 of my top 10 running backs, I'd be really happy. But I wouldn't expect this to necessarily be the case all the time. But that's what made my draft work for me was I still feel that Devontae Adams can deliver good numbers, especially in LA, playing in that slot role, if that's what he's going to do, especially if he's going to work in the red zone as well and be a factor for touchdowns. Yeah, he's going to be great. If Godwin is healthy, we saw what his upside was last year. New offensive coordinator, don't really care about that in Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield's the one that matters here. And I think that Godwin can potentially be the best receiver in Tampa. If he were healthy and ready to go, I'd put him ahead of Mike Evans in full PPR. And DK Metcalf is probably going to be the number 1 receiver in Pittsburgh. Certainly profiles more of a number 3 fantasy receiver, but a top end one. And that's what I drafted him to be. So I'm actually thrilled with the players that I got. I just don't know if I would get these same 3 receivers again if I started triple running back in my draft.
Okay. And Dave also took Caleb Williams in round 10 and Trevor Lawrence in round 14. So he really waited on the quarterback.
How is Lawrence, if we're in love with Brian Thomas Jr. and calling him a top 15 pick, and Travis Hunter is going to be a round 3 or a round 4 pick. How is Trevor Lawrence lasting until the final round of a fantasy draft? That doesn't add up.
No,
So
well,
I'm
there are
going
a couple
to
guys.
take a lot of Trevor Lawrence with my last pick. And if this offense stinks, so what? I wasted a pick. But if it's good, then we know that Trevor Lawrence should be at least a serviceable fantasy starter.
I don't think like our drafts, our mocks are often not indicative of quarterback ADP. I'd be surprised if Lawrence is available that late in regular drafts, but maybe.
I'm trying to look at the list of quarterbacks who have produced 2 top 15 or top 16 wide receivers. So you got like Burrow last year, but
I think he extended like top 20 because Baker.
Yeah,
quarterback
but
off
guys that were not amazing were Tua in 2022. He was QB 8 per game. He only played 13 games. Russell Wilson in 2021, he was QB 15 in 14 games. So he's probably like close to 12th per game. He had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. You had Kirk Cousins, it was QB 11 when he had Jefferson and Thielen in 2020. You had Jared Goff, had Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Now, I have a feeling Robert Woods had some rushing totals in there. Goff was QB 15 that year in 2019. Kirk Cousins, again, was QB 12 in 2018 when he had Thielen and Diggs as top 11 wide receivers. So it is possible to give 2 must-start wide receivers and not have a standout fantasy season. But you're going to, at the very least, you're going to be flirting with the top 12. So I do think your point is taken. If people really buy into Hunter and Brian Thomas, you should probably draft Trevor Lawrence, because there's no way he's not going to be at least worth rostering. All right. So keep moving on here in round 5, pardon me. After Chris Godwin, we have the round is Montgomery, Zay Flowers, DJ Moore, Jamison Williams, Cortland Sutton, Chris Godwin, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, RJ Harvey, Jerry Jeudy to Heath, RJ Harvey to me, Sam Laporta, who is tight end 4, Travion Henderson, and Joe Burrow to Jamie. So I had a lot of trouble with Harvey versus Henderson. I think I used most of the clock on that pick. Dan in our chat, pardon me, says, I'm so confused at the RJ Harvey pick in round 5. Don't you guys think it will be an ugly split between McLaughlin, Estime, and Harvey? My answer to that is yes for the first couple of weeks, and then not so much after. That's what I'm banking on. I can't say that there's going to be less of a split in New England with Ramondre and maybe Antonio Gibson for a little bit. I have confidence in both of these guys, but I went with Harvey. I don't know if I do the same thing in the next draft. It's really a toss-up to me between Harvey and Henderson, but I love these running backs. They're second-round picks for a reason. The other guys in their backfields aren't really that good. And if I looked at both Denver and New England backfields, to me, the best veteran running back is Ramondre Stevenson. I think he is the stiffest competition for these 2 rookies, and that is probably why I went with Harvey there. What did you guys think of Harvey and Henderson mid to late round 5?
I thought you made the right choice.
I'd go
as well.
I'd go Henderson in full PPR. I'd go Harvey in half.
Did you think this was the right spot for those running backs?
I have them both in round 5.
I only have Harvey in round 5.
I have them both in this range, yeah.
Jamie, you're kind of someone I would expect to have Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence on your team. That's Dave's team. You took Joe Burrow 60th overall. So, you love waiting on quarterbacks, and you did sort of wait. But what made you pick Burrow here? And you also had Jalen Hurts on the board. He was picked 3 picks later.
Yeah, those are QB 4 and 5 for me. So I thought it was just a little, silly to pass on one of them given the value. And again, so the way that the board sort of fell, I was like, okay, maybe I'll get Harvey, maybe I'll get Henderson. And then it was, do I take 2 running backs, or do I, take, again, the best player on the board? And so just knowing what Burrow and Hurts are capable of doing, it just seemed like a no-brainer to take the quarterback and kind of play the, running back depth game out as the draft unfolded. So if I had gone 0 RB at that point, I probably would have taken 2 running backs, but I probably would. Let's just say McCaffrey was Bowers or McBride in round 2, and then it's your receivers. Then it would have been a little bit hard to. I guess I'd still be taking Brian. I don't know what I'm talking about. But in any event, Burrow and Hurts just too good value to pass up at that point. So yes, did something that I don't normally do, but it was just based on the position.
We're going to look at one more round, and then we'll just focus on the rookies here, and we'll read some emails at fantasyfootball@cbsi.com to finish the show. Again, if you want to see the full results, there's going to be an article on the website, cbssports.com/fantasy, or go to youtube.com/fantasyfootball today and watch this video. Click on the live tab. If you're having trouble finding any videos, click on the live tab, and you'll see all of these full-length shows. I don't think you'll see FFT Express in that live tab, but you will see these full-length shows. You will not see Express in the live tab. You can see that in the videos tab. All right, so Jamie, DeAndre Swift was the first pick of round 6. If Nick Chubb goes to the Bears, would you take Quinshon Judkins of the Browns or DeAndre Swift? Who would you take in that scenario?
Judkins, and I don't think Nick Chubb is going to necessarily crush DeAndre Swift just because I'm a little nervous about Chubb, at his age, coming off the injuries that he's had the past couple of years. But clearly he would be the lead running back to start the season. So I would guess that Swift would still have a pretty prominent role, but he should not go in this spot ahead of somebody like Judkins, ahead of Pacheco, for me at least, ahead of Caleb Johnson, if you're, playing out the rest of the board. So Swift would get a pretty significant downgrade after the upgrade he just got because of what happened in the NFL draft, or lack thereof.
All right, we got maybe our first big reach of the draft coming up, but let's see. We got Ted McMillan, or no, he doesn't like to be called Ted McMillan, so we're going to go Teteroa McMillan is the next pick after DeAndre Swift, second pick of round 6. Swift, Teteroa McMillan. Do we like that value for McMillan?
Too soon.
It's a little early for me.
The next 3 receivers off the board are Olave, Kupp, Metcalf. Are you taking them over Teteroa McMillan?
I would take McMillan over Kupp.
I would too.
I would take McMillan over Metcalf.
I would. Yeah.
Okay.
Not me.
Okay. After Teteroa McMillan, it's Jalen Hurts, Chris Olave, Cooper Kupp. Who do you think Chris Olave's quarterback is going to be in week 1?
Derek Carr.
Spencer Rattler.
Tyler Shock.
Our team.
Cooper Kupp, Tyrone Tracy. Cam Scadaboo would go 3 rounds later. DK Metcalf. Is this too early for Tracy or no?
Yes.
Yes.
To see him go ahead of Caleb Johnson and Quinshon Judkins was a little too soon for me.
All right, that's mid-round 6. DK Metcalf to Dave. Caleb Johnson, Savion Williams. That's our big reach here. This was a Packers rookie wide receiver drafted in round 3. Went ahead of Matthew Golden. So I don't see a justification for this Savion Williams pick. Jalen Waddle is next. And then maybe another reach, Colston Loveland. This is the second to last pick of round 6. And then Quinshon Judkins is the last pick of round 6. What do we think about Loveland here? I would say this early as the 5th tight end off the board.
Too soon.
Yeah, probably 4 rounds too soon for me.
Wow.
Maybe 3.
And Dave, you sat there in the 7th round and you took Njoku, and that was after Loveland and Tyler Warren. Warren would go a few picks after Loveland. So did you have Njoku ranked ahead of Loveland and Warren?
Yes. Njoku is a top 5 tight end for me this year. I fully expect him to have that same exact role that he had each of the last 2 years for Cleveland. I think he's locked into it. Short area targets, red zone targets, and a potential top 5 finish at tight end. Thrilled
that role
to get my 7th pick.
He gets that role for 1 more year.
Correct.
Yeah, Harold Fannin.
And it's Harold Fannon's turn.
Yeah, so Dave must have been pretty happy to see Loveland and Warren go so he could.
Well, I mean, I really love Warren, and I want to try and get him on pretty much every team I can, but not in round 7. There's a price to be paid, and if I can get Njoku over Warren, of course I'm going to do that. But I'm looking for Warren in round 9 or round 10, and it kind of sucked that I couldn't get him, but it's a mock. Can't be that upset about it, and I'm happy to see somebody else excited about Warren.
You can be upset about it. This is a space where if you want to be upset about a mock draft, you can be upset about a mock draft. There's too many times, at least I'd say once a draft, where I am just very angry at somebody sniping me in a mock draft. All right, so going through
the real drafts.
Yeah. All right, the rookies. So we have Genti 9th overall as RB5. Travis Hunter in late round 3, which these guys would not have taken him there. We get Amarian Hampton late in round 4, which we were comfortable with that, right? 47th overall.
I think that's late.
Oh, okay.
I bet by the time we get to August, he'll be going a lot higher.
And let me see. So Hampton goes, when did Najee Harris go? Round 9, I think. Round 9, late round 9. So Hampton goes 5 rounds earlier than Najee Harris. We've got RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson in round 5, 2 picks separating them. Teteroa McMillan in round 6, which we said was a little early. Caleb Johnson, mid round 6, 3 rounds ahead of Jalen Warren, who went in round 9. We're good with Caleb Johnson, mid round 6.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm probably alone on this, but I think that it's like 51-49% who's better this year, Hampton or Johnson. So I think if Hampton's going in round 4 and you can get Johnson in round 6, I love that.
I agree. And this is another guy that'll probably rise by the time we get to August.
I also wouldn't be surprised if it's 51-49 in terms of Johnson and Jalen Warren.
As far as snaps,
Production.
That would surprise me.
production would surprise me. Snaps would surprise me if it's that close. But I know who's going to get more touchdowns.
Well, 2023, Warren was better than Najee. And then Warren missed time last year. I think
New
Warren's
play
going to have a
caller
very
in
good role.
2024, James.
Huh?
It's a different play caller in 2024.
Oh, totally.
Warren
But I
than-
think Warren, banged up last year. And then when he started to come on at the end of the season, he was outproducing Najee.
Yeah.
So
I know. I love the kid, but it's been 2 years. He's never been given the chance to really take over. And the way that Tomlin talked about Caleb Johnson after the draft just makes me think that they're just going to plug him right back into that Najee role, and they're going to expect better efficiency.
yeah,
And
I don't
think they're wrong.
I don't think Jalen Warren is taking over, and I don't think he has to take over in what he does to be productive in this format,
True,
this scoring
but-
format.
Right.
But the question is more productive than Caleb Johnson.
No, I think it'll be a slight edge for Caleb Johnson, whereas in 2 seasons ago when Jalen Warren was healthy, he was more productive than Najee Harris.
Oh, I can't stay. We gotta he was 0.2 fantasy points per game better in full PPR.
Okay, but
Can we call it a tie? Can we just call it a tie?
I'm not going to argue that, but 51-49 is what I said. It's not like it's
Right.
going to be a dominant.
Point 2 is pretty close to 51-49.
And if
You're saying he was better. They were basically tied, and Najee was better in the other 2 formats on a per game basis. And they
correct,
were
and I think Caleb Johnson and the other 2 formats will be significantly better than Jalen Warren. But in this situation, and again, just to piggyback off what Heath was saying, if the comparison is Hampton and Caleb Johnson, and how their roles will sort of shake out, or maybe how their production will shake out, more importantly, I think Jalen Warren's production, if there's a 3-round difference, I'd be taking Jalen Warren over Caleb Johnson all day long.
I think it's interesting that we've got 2 guys, like it's been at least 2 years, maybe 3, that we've wanted Jalen Warren to play more and Najee Harris to play less. And now we've got 2 running backs that are drafted to play with those 2 guys.
Yeah.
And the assumption seems to be that Najee's clearly going to take a back seat and Warren and Johnson might split. I think they might both just be less than 60-40 splits.
Well,
It's possible.
Again, Johnson's going to have to play better than Najee played, right? Because he's going to get an opportunity, but he's going to have to do more with it than what Najee Harris did. All right.
Hampton's going to have to outperform Najee. And we saw it from this coaching staff last year when J.K. Dobbins was healthy. Eventually, it didn't take that long. It took like 2 weeks for the coaching staff in L.A. to say, okay, enough with the Gus bust. Put him in park and let's roll with Dobbins. And the numbers bear it out. Dobbins had a lot more playing time and a lot more opportunity when the coaches realized and were comfortable with him leading the way in L.A. And so if that same situation plays out where Najee's not bad, but Amari and Hampton is just, wow, amazing, then I think we should expect Amari and Hampton to get a ton of work for the Chargers, and I think you should draft him accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been as critical of Najee as anybody, but I still think he's a lot better than Gus.
Oh, yeah. But Hampton's might be a lot better than Dobbins.
Right. That's what we're hoping. That's what we're banking on. Dobbins, by the way, was RB 18 per game last year in full PPR. He actually had 32 catches in 13 games. They did throw to him a decent amount. All right. Other rookies here. Where do we leave off? We left off with Henderson and Harvey, and then Teteroa McMillan and Caleb Johnson. Obviously, that's where we left off. Okay. So after Caleb Johnson in round 6, we have Colston Loveland and Quinshon Judkins in round 6. So beginning with Hampton in round 4, we are getting a lot of rookies off the board in basically a 2-round stretch. Hampton, Harvey, Travion Henderson, Tetaroa McMillan, Caleb Johnson, Savion Williams, which we think should not be the case. He should not be drafted. I don't know if he should be drafted at all. Colston Loveland, Quinshawn Judkins. Then we get Tyler Warren in round 7 as tight end 6, which is too early. All right. And let me just refer to my notes here. Matthew Golden in round 8. Matthew Golden goes just after. So this is first round pick for the Packers, rookie wide receiver, Matthew Golden, just after Ricky Pearsall and Khalil Shakir. Your thoughts, Heath?
I think he should go just after Khalil Shakir, but basically in the same type of range. I probably reached a little bit for Ricky Pearsall trying to do the friendship strategy after I took Juwan Jennings around earlier. And I feel like it's going to be Jennings as the 1 and Pearsall as the 2. I think Dave and Jamie have them almost back to back as kind of we'll see which one's the best one in the offense. And I, as someone who didn't take a wide receiver in the first 4 rounds, I wanted to have both of them to give myself a better chance of having another wide receiver too.
Cam Scadaboo goes in round 9. So Tyrone Tracy went in the middle of round 6. Cam Scadaboo early in round 9. And then 2 picks later, Jaden Blue. Who do you guys prefer? Jaden Blue to the Cowboys, Cam Scadaboo to the Giants.
Scadaboo.
I'll take
Scadaboo
Blue
by a
over
lot.
Blue.
Scadaboo by a lot, huh?
Right now, yeah.
I'm going to say Jaden Blue by a lot. A lot. I was surprised. I'm surprised by your answer. This one's not even close for me. Definitely taking Jaden Blue. I think the reason, I don't even have to get into the reasoning. You know why?
Because you're a Giants fan.
No, I don't.
Because he could be the starting running back for the Cowboys, and I don't think Cam Scadaboo can just take over this backfield. And I mean, I think Tracy and Singletary are tougher competition than what the crud veterans that are in Dallas. And I'm not a huge Scadaboo guy. I'm a little conflicted on him. So Jaden Blue.
Can we start a GoFundMe? It's only going to take $3 million to get J.K. Dobbins to the Cowboys.
There we go. Fine.
That would be fantastic. I wasn't particularly high, in fact, not high at all on Blue coming into the draft. It's a fantastic running back class, and so he might just be a great sleeper. But I don't think he's a full-time starting running back for anybody.
I agree. I think if
Scadaboo is.
you put him in the role of a passing downs guy, and maybe just specifically like an air back who only is going to play in obvious passing situations, then sure. But that's not going to be all the time.
Well,
that might
and
be
I
4
think
catches a game, and that might be too generous.
it might
So
even be worse than that too.
Scadaboo at least has a pathway to being the 1B back in New York. So I'd rather have Scadaboo over Blue.
Jaden Blue doesn't have that path. Go ahead, Heath. What were you going to say?
I think Scadaboo, my difference is I think Scadaboo has a chance to be the 1A back. I think it's possible he's the lead in the backfield and Tracy's the number 2. I think it's maybe more likely in the second half. But like the problem with being the pass catching back is I think it's unlikely that he's better than Javonte Williams in pass protection this year.
I'm not banking on him being the passing downs back. I'm banking on Jaden Blue being the first and second down back at some point. No, I'm not banking on it, but I'm more hopeful of that because I think Javonte stinks unless he can regain his form from pre-ACL. But I watched some tape after the Jaden Blue pick just to see like what do we got with Javonte Williams, and he just looks like a fullback right now. So I just and by the way, I should mention Javonte Williams went in between Scadaboo and Jaden Blue. It went Scadaboo, Javonte, Jaden Blue. I think honestly the big separator to me is Cowboys versus Giants. I should have said that. I just want to get a player on the Cowboys instead of a player on the Giants at this point.
Giants might be better this year.
No.
Would you have taken Blue over Trey Harris in round 9?
No, I think Trey Harris was a steal. I think that was
Okay, let me
they played
finish.
different positions, but I think Trey Harris.
Spears in round 10. Would you have taken Blue over Tyjae Spears?
No.
So you like Jaden Blue, but you're not willing to take him with a pick in the first 10 rounds.
I think I like Jaden Blue about as much as I liked Rico Dowdle last year, and it took too long for it to happen, but eventually it paid off. And I don't really see a reason why the same thing can't happen. I just hope it happens earlier.
Wish the Cowboys would have kept Rico Dowdle and not dealt with this mess.
I agree, but Rico Dowdle, I mean, let's talk about who Rico Dowdle was. It's not like he's a big back that looks like he's suited for a starting role. He got that because the other options stunk. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for Jaden Blue.
Please let J.K. Dobbins go to Dallas.
That's fine, too. I'd be fine with that. But, Dave, you did mention Trey Harris. He's the next rookie off the board. And, yeah, right? Am I missing one? He's before Ibuka, right? Sorry, Trey Harris, and then we had Ibuka the next round, I think. Yeah.
Ibuka was round 10.
You guys like Trey Harris round 9 and Mecca Ibuka round 10, Bashal Tootin round 10. Those are our next running backs.
Yeah.
Harris too soon for me.
Me too.
Why?
Ibuka definitely too soon.
I feel like we were too low. I mean, everybody was, but we were way too low on Ladd McConkey last year. So why are we?
He's still there.
I know, but we thought we were like, oh, Josh Palmer. If Trey Harris is good, he's going to have plenty of opportunities. They don't have a crowded receiving core.
No, they don't. It's just too soon. I don't want to draft him in that spot.
I've got him as a late round 12 pick.
Well, you're wrong.
I also have Jaden Blue as a late round 12 pick, but I would take Jaden Blue over Trey Harris.
I have Trey Harris as a late round 12 pick, actually, 140 overall.
Wow.
Perfect.
All right. All three Jacksonville running backs went between rounds 9 and 12 with Tootin in the middle. It went Etienne, Tootin, and Bigsby. How do you guys rank them?
Etienne, Blue, Bigsby.
Etienne, Bigsby, Tootin.
Bigsby, but this feels like a case of Jamie's classic, I want the last one. So
I want to take
if I can take Bigsby with like my second to last pick or something like that, sure, take the chance on him. Put him on my bench, see what happens.
Wait, you said Blue. You meant Tootin, Jamie? Etienne, Tootin?
I keep doing that. Yes, Tootin.
No, it's okay to be excited about Jaden Blue. I get it.
I'm excited about Jaden Blue, just not in that spot.
I made a very compelling case. I'd be excited too if I were listening to me.
You should not be taken ahead of Scatterbo, either one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to wrap it up here. So I wanted to read these emails that I neglected last time. There are other picks: Luther Burden, DJ Giddens, your Besh, Jack Besh going pretty late. One of the last rookies off the board. All right. Emails. We're going to go through these quickly here. fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. This is kind of a longer one. Well, Matthew, I did want to bring this up. Matthew said, why are you scoffing at Dave's Rashee Rice, in comparison to Brian Thomas Jr.? Last year, with everyone on the Chiefs completely healthy, Rice was on pace for 1,600 yards, 136 catches, and 11 touchdowns before the injury. Seemed like you, Adam, and Jamie were completely ignoring his production from last year. I responded and I said, he's coming off the knee injury. And they didn't have everyone healthy last year. They didn't have Marquise Brown at that point. Xavier Worthy, that was the beginning of the year. Xavier Worthy was doing nothing. So I don't think the circumstances are exactly the same. But I did want to, I'll take responsibility if I scoffed at Dave's comparison unnecessarily. So I apologize for that. But Jamie, yeah, I know. Dave's been yelling at me the entire week for this, just so you know. But Jamie, a response to that?
I just think Thomas, in his current situation, even with the addition of Hunter, still has a higher ceiling right now than Rashee Rice because of the injury, because of the guys that Kansas City still has. But clearly, I think Rice should not be drafted that far behind, as I took him in this draft.
All right, the next email is from Ben. So now that the draft is over and Travis Hunter's on the Jags, who should be 101? So obviously you're going to say Genty, but let me tell you this: it's 16 teams. And it's PPR and it's IDP. And he would get points for both offense and defense stats. So if that's the case, who would you take number one?
Genty.
I'll still go Genty, but Hunter is the clear number 2.
And he'd be the clear number 2 in non-IDP too.
We've got a dynasty question here from a Kansas Jayhawk. I think his name is D-Mart.
Yeah.
Keith is asking himself questions.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's H-Mart.
And it says, Dear Adam, Heather, Dave, and Jamie. So
Appreciate that.
I think that was probably an auto.
That's a thing that people do sometimes. It's okay.
He's worried about Teteroa McMillan's inability to get separation in college. And he's worried about this style of Big 12 wide receiver. They have bad track records. Kevin White, Josh Doxson, Quentin Johnston, all tall Big 12 wide receivers who come to mind. Do you think, are you guys concerned about Teteroa McMillan at the next level?
Not to the same extent that I was concerned about White and Dotson. I think McMillan just he moves very uniquely for a guy his size, and I think that short area quickness that he has is what does give him the ability to separate. Now we'll see if it causes him to struggle a little bit with defenders at the NFL compared to the Big 12, but I think the combination of those quick feet, and he's a giant out there, just being able to put his arm up, and all of a sudden he's 8 feet tall, perfect to catch those hops from Bryce Young, who played well toward the end of the year last year. Gives me hope that Teteroa McMillan can be a very good receiver.
Okay.
Did people think Kevin White couldn't run?
He could run, he just couldn't do anything else. Same with Dotson.
I don't know. That's what the email said. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the knock on McMillan is that he can't run.
Sure. Like his straight line speed is competitive, but it's not.
No, I mean, look, if you're hoping McMillan succeeds, you're hoping he's Drake London. Like if that's the type of receiver he's going to be, a guy that can win contested catches and be physical, and Michael Pittman too. I think those were the comps for me, at least on him, is that guy that's going to win contested catches. And to Dave's point, Bryce Young played better. Is Bryce Young the type of quarterback to make McMillan the 8th overall pick in the NFL draft, and I don't know if you want to use the word elite, but an elite fantasy option? I mean, based on where his draft status is and where dynasty managers in rookie only drafts have to take him, so that's my concern, especially in his rookie season. I don't think Thielen is going away, unfortunately. And before the draft, they were making all sorts of arguments, the Panthers were, about Liggett being a number 1 receiver. So does he get a bigger opportunity too?
And this one is from Stefan. At 202 in a, did you say Diggs? No, it's or Kel, actually. At 202 in a Superflex tight end premium rookie draft, I can either go Caleb Johnson, who can help me win this year, or I can get Tyler Warren. I am a top 3 contender. So would you take Caleb Johnson or Tyler Warren in a tight end premium rookie draft, knowing that he could win the league this year?
Warren.
He already has Trey McBride.
Warren.
If it's tight end premium, you have to take Warren.
I think, I might see. You probably can't move back one spot, but if the guy behind you really wants Warren, see if you can add a little something and then get Caleb Johnson. But I'd probably take Warren.
They said it's 202?
Mm-hmm.
How is Warren getting to the second round in a tight end premium draft?
I don't know.
Yeah, do you think he meant 102? And if he
said
meant 102, why isn't he taking Hunter?
He called it.
If it's 102 and he's debating Caleb Johnson and Tyler Warren, that's ridiculous.
No, it's not. He said 202. He said I can grab the amazing value of Tyler Warren.
Maybe it's a 8-team league. Maybe maybe it's possible that Warren lasts that long in an 8-team league.
They also could be super flex.
It is Superflex, but still, it's such a bad year for Superflex. There wasn't much of a difference between the Superflex draft and the 1 QB draft that we did yesterday.
Look, Ward and Dart went in round 1.
Yeah, not much of a difference, right? I mean, Ward was a round 2 pick in the 1 QB league, right?
They both are round 2.
I thought the quarterbacks went too early in the 1 QB league.
Too early
in the 1 QB. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't take Cam Ward before pick 20, and I wouldn't take Dart in the first 36 picks in a 1 QB league.
I think I had close to pick 20, and I was considering Ward. I probably would have taken him in the second round, but he was off the board.
There were 5 quarterbacks drafted in the Superflex 1 and only 4 in the 1 QB.
Okay. All right, everybody. We're out of here. Thanks to the long show. I appreciate y'all, your patience, and your emails at fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. FFT Express coming up right now. We'll see you there.